Okay, now let's see what is parameter and what is argument. We have already seen parameter, right? When we define a function, we need to use parameter, right? When we define a function, we first use a keyword define, def, and it follows by the function name, the parentheses, and in the parentheses we have parameters. Those parameters are used to feed in the values into this function, right? And on contrast, what is argument? The argument is actually the value we put into this function. So if we compare parameters and argument, we can see that the parameter is what the function is asking for, and the argument is what we put into this function. So let's see the differences between parameter and argument with one example. Okay, let's see this example. In this example, we have a user-defined function, which is called triple, right? And in this triple function, we have one parameter, which is number, num, one parameter. We triple this number and return the result. So what we have, if we give a number 1 as the number, and then we triple it, we get 3. If we give 2 to this number, we will get 6. If we give 3, we get 9, right? And how we use this triple function, right? When we use this triple function, we need to find out what we want to triple, what is the argument. So we define the argument, a new variable, and assign a value 2 to this argument variable, right? And then put this argument into this function. So when we say print triple argument, we will triple the value 2. As a result, we get 6. And if you print this argument, we will have 2. So now you see the parameters is what is asked for from the function, and the argument is what we gave to this function. Okay, let's see another example to see the difference between parameter and argument. In this second example, we have a new function. It's called grading. In this function, we also have one argument, which is language, L-A-N-G, and we compare the value of L-A-N-G, the value of language, with some keywords: English, French, Spanish, and then we show different message. And if it is not a keyword among these three, we show a smiley face, right? This is our grading function. And how we use this grading function? When we use these grading functions, we provide the keywords like EN, French, Spanish, and German. So if we provide English, EN, we have the result hello, right? If we have this French, we have bonjour. Spanish, hola. So that's how we use this function. So now you see this language is the parameter in this grading function, and we can compare the values to the keywords in these functions. And when we use these grading functions, we need to provide the keywords, and those keywords, those words are the arguments, right? So now you see clearly the parameters is what is asked from the function, and arguments is what we gave to the function. Okay, another thing is that we are not limited to one parameter per function. We can use multiple parameters in a function, and when we do that, we also need to provide multiple arguments when we use this function. For example, let's say we have this user-defined function, let's show sum, and in this function we have number 1, number 2, two parameters, and we add them up and show the result. And then when we use this show sum function, we also need to provide two arguments. one argument for number 1, one argument for number 2. When we have these 2 arguments, we can add them up and show the result. Let's see a more complex example. In this second example, we want to calculate the interest when you put your money in a bank. And what we need to calculate this interest, we need the principal, how much money you put into the bank, the interest rate, how much the bank will give you, and how long the period, how long you put the money in the bank. And the interest is calculated as the product of these 3 numbers. So interest is the product of principal, rate, and period. Okay, now see how we use this function. We have this show interest function, which requires 3 parameters. And then when we use this show interest function, we also need to provide 3 arguments. And interestingly, you can see that we do not need necessarily to provide those arguments in the same order. We can provide the rate argument first, period second, and then principal, right? So if you want to present your arguments in a different order to your parameters, you need to write down the parameters names to be specific. So you need to write rate is 0.01, period is equal to 10, principal is 10,000 to make it work. So as a result, when you write your function like show interest and provide 3 arguments like this, you can calculate the interest of your principal, which is $1,000, right?